Hi guys, and welcome back to Cooking the Books with Heather. I'm still working from the Poole cookbook here, and I was looking through and noticed that I had made the basic cider mayo for the pimento cheese recipe that you've hopefully already seen. If not, I'll link it below, or maybe in one of the little cool things up here. So this calls for cider mayo, but also another recipe in the book, countertop creme fraiche. So I decided I was going to make classic deviled eggs. Picture here. They look beautiful. Mine probably won't look that beautiful, but we'll see. One thing about this recipe is, even though it's relatively, it's a deviled egg recipe, but it uses mostly creme fraiche instead of mostly mayo, which is how I usually make it, is mostly mayo. So that'll be interesting. It also includes some different ingredients, like instead of regular pickles or relish, like I usually use, it's got cornichon, which is a French tiny little pickle. And then there are the garnishes. So pickled green tomato slivers for garnish, ground piment d'Espelette, which is basically a red pepper, kind of like paprika, or chives for garnish. Those are all optional. I have everything but the particular kind of paprika, but I'll probably put some paprika on it just because we normally do that. But come along and see how easy or difficult this is. Hi guys, so next recipe that I decided to do was the deviled eggs from the Poole cookbook. And then I noticed that while you can use sour cream that you buy, there's also a recipe for creme fraiche, and that's the preferred ingredient. So I decided I was going to make creme fraiche while I had buttermilk around. I always have heavy cream around, and all you have to do is mix it together and let it sit on the counter for a couple days. But you have to mix it together and let it sit on the counter for a couple days. So that's what I'm going to do now. I have tried to make countertop creme fraiche before from another recipe in another book, and it's been probably 15 years at this point, and it didn't work. So I'm really interested to see if this does. So I've got quite a bit of heavy cream here. I'm just pouring it into a mason jar, and I'm gonna just try to get as much out as I can. And then I'm going to add the buttermilk, same buttermilk as I used for the strawberry shortcake biscuits. And then I'm gonna mix that together. And that is it for this, really. Now she says to cover the top with cheesecloth. I could not find any cheesecloth. I know I had some at some point, but who knows where it went, or if we just threw it out because we did something gross with it, who knows. So I'm gonna put just a paper towel over it, and she also says to tie it with twine, but I don't really see a reason to do that when you can just use the lid. So that's it. Hopefully in a couple days we'll have creme fraiche. So it's been 2 days since we started the creme fraiche, the countertop creme fraiche for our deviled eggs. And I'm going to check to see what's going on in the jar. I'm kind of excited because it actually feels like it's doing something. So unlike last time I tried this kind of thing. So we're going to stir it up and see what happened. It is definitely thick all the way through. You can see that it's not falling off. I think we have creme fraiche. I'm not sure how thick this should be. The book just says until thickened. This is slightly looser than most sour cream, but not by a whole lot. So I think we're gonna stop here, and I'm gonna put it in the refrigerator, and it'll be all ready for me to make the classic deviled eggs from the Poole cookbook. So that should be coming up. Okay, so the next step for making the classic deviled eggs from Ashley Christensen's Poole Steiner cookbook is to boil the eggs, make hard-boiled eggs. The method that she suggests is actually the one that I use all the time. Her timing is a little bit different. I'm going to go with her timing because that's what she says. But you start the eggs, I've got a dozen eggs here, in cold water covered by 1 inch. So, and then you bring it to a rolling boil. I'm not going to do power boil because that just goes really fast, and I feel like that doesn't work as well. Anyway, got it on high, and so we're going to wait for this to boil very fast, and then you turn off the heat. You cover it, you turn off the heat, and you wait for 8 minutes. I usually go for about 10, but we'll try 8. So now we're just waiting for it to boil. Okay, so we're just about to a good rolling boil. I think we're almost there. I like to give it a little extra. But you can see that one of my eggs has already cracked a little bit, and a little bit of the white has come out, so that one won't be beautiful, but whatever. So put on the lid, turn off the heat, and I've got a timer here for 8 minutes. So her suggestion for trying to make the eggs easier to peel is to prick the shells with a straight pin. That scares me. I didn't do it. And that's one of the reasons that it scares me. As you could see, the white one had a little crack or cracked a little bit as the heat came up and the egg white started coming out, and I'm just afraid they would all do that. Another method, so somebody else I follow and who I think does really great food science is Kenji Lopez Alt. He's with Serious Eats, and he has a restaurant in somewhere in California. So he has done lots of experiments about how to make hard-boiled eggs easier to peel, and he says that the best way is to put your eggs into already boiling water, and that sort of shocks the outside more quickly and makes them easier to peel. I think that's the general gist of it. I've not tried that because generally I don't care if my eggs look beautiful because it's just me eating them, although for deviled eggs, usually you want them to be pretty, but one won't be pretty for sure, and we'll see how the other ones peel. It seems to be kind of just luck of the draw. They also say older eggs are easier to peel. These are relatively new eggs. I got them at the grocery store last weekend, so we'll see. So we've got 6.5 minutes left, and we'll come back, and I'm going to go ahead and get ready. You're supposed to put these into ice water for 10 minutes before you peel them after this. Okay, it's been 8 minutes. I do want to say, if you have a coil stove that stays really, really hot, you might want to take it off of the burner. I don't bother with that on my stove. It's induction and it doesn't stay very hot. So this is the poor little egg that cracked a little bit. That is the chef's tester. That's what I call it. The ugly ones I get to eat. So I'm putting these into an ice water bath, and they're going to sit for 10 minutes. We will probably not make you sit there and watch 10 minutes or even fast forward through, because we'll set up somewhere else to show you how these peel. I guess we'll see. A little concerned. Sometimes eggs are stubborn. All right, I'm going to set a timer for 10 minutes. And we'll be right back. So my eggs have been in the ice water bath, which is not very icy anymore, for 10 minutes, plus a little bit. I'm going to open this one up and, well, there it goes, and see if I can peel it and make sure that it is done. Like I said, I usually go a little bit longer with that method on my stove, so I am, excuse the potential background noise there. But I'm gonna test this one first to make sure that it is hard boiled. Since this is my ugly one, that's the perfect tester. So here we go. Just dry it off since it was in the water and had this little. Let's see, that's. I'm trying to get the shells off my fingers. That's an interesting little honeycomb effect in there. So this is a perfect way to test to see if this is hard boiled or not. And it is. That seems pretty perfect. Okay, I'm not gonna make you watch me actually peel all these eggs. Relatively self-explanatory. I have no tricks to help you peel them and make them beautiful, so we'll be back when they're all done. Okay, so we peeled all the eggs, and some of them peeled great, some of them didn't. So, you know, some won't be pretty, some of them won't, but they'll all taste good. We have the yolks right here, and the whites I've put on my deviled egg tray. Just waiting for the yolks to be done. So the method here is we combine some of the stuff in a food processor and get it very smooth. And then we pass it through a sieve to make sure it's really, really smooth. And then we add the other stuff. So first we're gonna add our yolks to the food processor. And then we've got our creme fraiche that we made. It's been in our refrigerator. This has another one of these lovely plungy measuring cups. And I need, how am I gonna do this? Okay, I need, do this every time. I need a tablespoon of this. I'm not gonna be too precise about that. And then need to put some of the juice from these cornichons in here. Oh, that's great. There we go. That's about right. So clean that up a little bit right here. Okay. So now I'm gonna do the loud thing. I'm gonna puree this until it's very smooth. I'm gonna stop and scrape it at least once. Make sure we get everything incorporated well. Okay, I think that's probably about as smooth as we're going to get with that. So I have my sieve and bowl ready back here. So I'm just going to scrape all this into the bowl. Got to hold the blade so it doesn't fall out on you. Okay, and now we're just going to force this through, and probably going to need another spatula here to scrape the other side. When we're all done. That actually went through fairly easily. No, nothing, not a whole lot left. So that's good. And got another spatula here. I just have to scrape it all off the bottom. And I am right-handed, so I'm going to switch. Scrape it all off the bottom, and then we're going to... So got our yolks, and now we add some cornichons. We chopped these up. It ended up being, I think, about 4 of these little guys. I found these at Whole Foods, but I think just about any grocery store has those these days. I think I saw them at my regular grocery store as well. Some shallots that I minced. Just minced really fine. And some butter, some melted unsalted butter. I've never put butter in my eggs before, my deviled eggs before, but you know, I've also never put sour cream or creme fraiche in them before, so that's new. And then that was the cider mayo that we made already. There's another recipe, another video for that if you want to know how to make that. Some salt, and then 10 twists of pepper. And then you just fold this together. And I've gotten myself all messy. Good thing I have lots of paper towels here. Let's clean that up a bit. There we go. So you fold that up together, get it all mixed in, and that is the filling done. I'm gonna take a quick break and clean up a little bit and get the yolks over here and fill them up with our mixture. All right, I've done some cleanup and I have my egg whites, the yolk mixture, and some of the garnishes here. Speaking of, she suggests pickled green tomatoes. I was able to find this also at Whole Foods. They are due south, all natural mean green tomatoes, pickled green tomatoes. So there is not a recipe for pickled green tomatoes in the book, so I did not feel the need to make those myself, but I found some. I don't have the kind of pepper that she suggests to garnish with, but we have both smoked and regular sweet paprika. I like Penzeys in case you couldn't tell. We have some chives that I cut up a little bit. And so those are the 3 optional garnishes that she suggests. Let's see. She also suggests using, a piping bag with a star tip. I do not have a star tip that's big enough really to let even the minced peppers go through, and so I'm just not going to worry about that. I usually use a sandwich bag. I put all this in there, cut off the corner, and then fill them up with that. So that's what we're going to do now. Folding down the top of your bag is a good idea though if you're going to use this. Keeps it from getting too messy when you go to close it. And if you want to, if you need to, if you want to have these later, you can store these separately. Store the whites. I usually would store them in a plastic container with some paper towels because they will give off some water, or in a plastic bag with paper towels. And then you can store this just like it is in the refrigerator, and then when you're ready, snip it off and be ready to go. All right, so here we go. And now we have, I'm going to go ahead and, let's do a few with the smoked paprika. My husband really enjoys the smoked paprika and suggested that I do that, so I'll do a few with that. some over here with the regular paprika, the sweet paprika. The smoked paprika isn't spicy, it's just smoky. I really like it in chilies and things like that. I usually have some on hand. If you see that, my sink is right there, so I can just put things in there. So put a few chives on some. I am quite obviously not a food stylist, but you know, things always taste good. Guess I could just drop some on. Okay, and then the rest I'm going to put some of these slivers of pickled green tomato on there, and you could, I'm sure you could combine them, one or the other, or both, and put some tomato and some paprika on, or whatever you like. This part is entirely up to you. All right. And there we have the classic deviled eggs from the Poole's Diner Cookbook. So we made the classic deviled eggs from the Poole's Diner Cookbook. And I have to say, they were fairly easy. A few more steps than my usual recipe though, so. But there were no big gotchas besides the usual. Eggs are hard to peel sometimes, and there's not a great method to get around that, although I guess I haven't tried poking a hole in it yet. Maybe I will try it next time. I did learn that 8 minutes was perfectly fine on my stove. Bring it to a boil and cover it with the heat off for 8 minutes. Perfect hard-boiled eggs. The centers were nice, no gray ring around the yolk. Very good. That was good. But my family did not love them. I thought they were good, but I think we all prefer my usual recipe, which is not really a recipe. I kind of just throw things in. Usually some sweet pickles instead of the much saltier and more vinegary cornichon that she calls for. My husband, who does not like pickles very much at all, thought they were too pickly, and he thinks that they didn't need the juice from the pickles in them. It was good. I may incorporate some of the things that she did into my recipe. Maybe I'll use sour cream or creme fraiche with mayo in my other recipe and try that out and see if we like that better, but probably won't make these as is again. But it was probably the first recipe that we've made that did not have anything really difficult in it or anything that gave me any stumbling blocks. And I was very happy that the countertop creme fraiche worked, because I tried to make that before and it didn't. So all in all, worth it. Probably won't make again. Thanks for watching. Okay, definitely a rolling boil. So I'm going to put on the lid. I got the wrong lid. Oh my goodness.